It was a bright, sunny afternoon, and the air was filled with the salty scent of the ocean. Tiny waves lapped against the sand, shining like melted crystal under the golden sun. There on the beach, in the shade of an oversized red umbrella, a group of spirited peanuts had gathered. Yes, peanuts, walking, talking, and brimming with excitement for their day by the sea. The leader of the group, a confident peanut wearing tiny aviator sunglasses, clapped his hands. "All right, everyone," he said, his voice crisp like the shells they all wore. "We've got a full day ahead of us. Sunbathing, shell collecting, maybe even some surfing. Let's make it a day for the peanut history books." "That sounds nutty and wonderful, Captain," replied one of the smaller peanuts, who had tied a piece of seaweed around her shell as a headband. "Can we start with sandcastle building? I've been reading Architectural Digest, and I think I have some groundbreaking ideas." Another peanut with a wide smile and a floppy straw hat piped up. "Count me in. I want to build a castle so grand that crabs will want to live in it." Captain Peanut chuckled, shoving his hands into invisible pockets. All right, let's gather the shovels and begin. But remember, we've got to defend it from the tide. That water's relentless." As the group scattered to find small tools, bits of driftwood, shells, and pieces of seaweed for decoration, the smallest peanut, a quiet one with a tilted beret, wandered toward the shoreline. She paused, watching the waves as they tickled her tiny peanut toes before retreating again. She sighed nostalgically. "The ocean always seems so peaceful, doesn't it?" Her introspection was interrupted by a slightly gruff voice. "Don't get too close to the water, kiddo. You don't want to end up soggy." It was Salty Peanut, the oldest and wisest of the group, his shell dusted faintly white from a lifetime of seasoning. "Stay up on the sand where it's safe." "Thanks, Salty. I'll be careful," she replied, stepping back. "But don't you think it's amazing? The waves, the endless horizon. It makes me feel small, but in a good way." Salty nodded. "There's a lot to learn from the ocean, that's true, but it's always better to admire it from a safe distance." Meanwhile, at the sandcastle site, things were getting lively. Peanuts were working together, passing buckets of damp sand, shaping towers with their little hands, and meticulously decorating the castle with tiny seashells and sticks. "Quick! We need more support for the left turret," someone shouted. One of the peanuts, gripping a small rake, turned to Captain Peanut and grinned. "This is shaping up to be quite the fortress. Ready for the final touches?" Captain Peanut stretched his arms wide like a director about to give the final cue. "Do it! Add the flag!" The smallest peanut, who had wandered earlier, returned just in time with her beret in hand. "Here, use my beret," she said, thrusting it forward. Everyone cheered as the beret was hoisted on a makeshift flagpole, a thin piece of driftwood, and planted on top of the central tower. The peanuts stepped back to admire their creation. "Now that," Captain Peanut said, "is a castle fit for the kings and queens of the nut world." Their celebration was interrupted by a faint rumbling. The peanuts turned, their tiny eyes widening as they saw a particularly large wave rolling toward the shore. "Brace yourselves!" someone shouted. Salty Peanut smirked despite the looming threat. "Well, I tried to warn you all. Let's see if your architectural masterpiece can withstand the forces of nature." Water surged forward, crashing onto the shoreline and swallowing the lower half of the sandcastle. The peanuts scrambled, some holding hands to avoid being swept away. When the water receded, the castle was still standing, albeit significantly shorter. The beach erupted into cheers. It survived. Well, mostly. "And just like that," Captain Peanut declared, brushing a bit of sand off his aviators, "we've proven that peanuts are not only resilient but also excellent architects." As the sun began to set, painting the horizon in shades of orange and pink, the peanuts gathered around a tiny bonfire made of twigs and coconut husks. They roasted marshmallows the size of their heads and shared stories about their adventure. "You know what?" said the smallest peanut with a dreamy look in her eyes. "Today was perfect. The sand, the sea, the castle. It's like the beach was made for peanuts." Captain Peanut raised a tiny marshmallow on a stick like a toast. "To peanuts, the beach, and an uncrackable bond of friendship." The peanuts cheered, their laughter carrying over the sound of the waves. And there they stayed until the stars began to twinkle overhead, enjoying their wonderful time at the beach.